Here.
Cook? Here. Peters? Here. And Fowler?
Here.
First item is approval of minutes, meeting minutes, from the regular meeting of December 7th, 2021. Is there any corrections or changes to make?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Moved and supported. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 And those opposed? Motion carried. This is the point for public comment. This is any items that are not already on the agenda. And if anyone is here to speak in general, you're welcome to do so. I think not. And now we're up to new business. The first item is a certificate of appropriateness application for 236 West 9th Street. Who would like to start us out?
All right, and just a reminder that if you're speaking, to speak into the microphone and to make sure the green light is
Turn it
on.
too.
Yes. Always.
I
have
can
to
do that.
remind yourself. And then, yes, we have 236 West 9th Street. If you'd like to step forward to the podium, yeah, I can give a little bit of an introduction here. So this is the house right on the corner. It's sometimes referred to as the Coatsworth House. Mansard roof, nice cupola up there. So they are looking to put in an egress window in the basement. It's an already existing window well, just converting it to egress. They will not be replacing the window, but instead repurposing the double hung sashes that are already there, creating a new in-swing unit. And the visual proportions from the outside should not change. And that's kind of a little bit of an introduction. Would you like to add anything else?
No, I would say that pretty well sums it up. The only other thing that I'll mention is they would like to add a bathroom and laundry down there, and we need to vent them outside, so we'd be adding a couple vents, but that pretty well sums it up.
Yep,
So,
two exterior vents also. That's on the west side of the building, which is the side
Yep.
opposite of Washington Boulevard,
Washington.
up against the house
Yes.
next door, so not very visible.
It's a very striking house. It's really a
it really is.
big part of our neighborhood, and we
Yep.
appreciate all your efforts there. So. Well, and that it changes so little visually is really helpful to us, just makes it easier to say, of course. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so this is the window right here. It has a wooden storm on it, which will be modified, so it will
course.
still be there, but the hardware will be changed as part of the egress requirement.
Of course, yeah. And so there's no well to be built, or?
There really isn't. There's a couple pieces of wood retaining just a little bit, but it's no more than 6 to 8 inches that it's below grade.
Okay.
It's very little.
And it doesn't change grade at all for you?
It does
You're
not
right with it.
change grade at all, no.
Great.
And there's a storm window on the outside, but again, I should be able to change the hardware so it can be released from the inside.
Sure, yeah, of course.
So,
Great. Any other questions from commissioners?
There won't be any impact to any of the exterior trim or anything like that around that.
No.
Really, that window is the only thing that you're changing, right?
it really should be. We should be able to get the sashes out of there
Yeah.
and leave the trim alone.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to repurpose that to keep the same windows and just be able to use it as egress now. I think that's a great idea.
Nick, we're still on the first item of business.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problem. What is that surface we're looking at that sort of looks like concrete or maybe stucco?
It looks to me like I believe it's gonna be a stucco, a cement-based stucco. I have no idea how old it is. It certainly doesn't have foam behind it or anything like that, but it is a stucco surface.
Well, you'll find out what's behind it when you go to drill your holes.
Well, I know that there's cobblestone inside, so.
Stone, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Terrific amount of work.
Right. If anybody else doesn't have any questions, I'm ready to make a motion. All right, I'll move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and per testimony for the egress window and vent additions at 236 West 9th Street, based on the local guidelines and the Secretary of Interior's Standard Number 9. New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment.
I'll support that motion.
It's moved and supported. Any other comments? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item is a certificate of appropriateness application for 203 West 10th Street for solar panels from Moira Gargano.
So Moira was unable to attend tonight, so I will talk through her application.
Thank you.
I've let her know that if there's questions or if we feel we can't make a decision tonight, this could potentially be tabled. But we also have a lot to kind of go over with this one, so
Sure.
I will start with that. So this is for solar panels, which is not something that we run across very often. The house is on 10th Street. It faces south. And the proposed panel location is towards the east. This house, let me scroll down and show you here. It's of the upright and L design, so this would be on the first floor roof right along here, sort of where the porch is. The current electrical box configuration is right here on the end, and so that's one of the main reasons for having them here. Also, access to sunlight. So the homeowner is proposing to install 10 solar panels. That we have the plans for that right here, along the edge here. I've spoken with her back and forth many times about this project. I had a lot of questions right away about their visibility, about any modifications that would need to be made to the structure. She reached out to the person she's working with at Helios Solar in Kalamazoo. That's where this work is being done. Regarding any damage to the original historic fabric of the building, the response we got was that there are no modifications that need to be made to the roof or structure, and that anything that is being placed on top of the roof can be removed in the future without any damage being caused. Unfortunately, I can't go deeper into exactly what's happening, but
Sure.
that was the answer we were given when asked. And then also, I discussed the location on the home. Sometimes you'll see, can you put it on the garage? Could you put it on a non-original portion of the building? We were told that it's really the only location because of where the current electrical system is, and again, the need for sunlight. It's as close as possible to that interconnection point that I mentioned, and this is better for the homeowner as far as costs go, and then also any electrical mounted raceways will be covered, the conduits will be, and that's sort of, again, to help with the look of it all. I was pretty satisfied with these answers. I mean, I was happy that we were able to have the discussion. However, now kind of turning it over to you guys, I can try and answer as many questions as I can. The representative from Helios Solar happens to live in the Grand Rapids Historic District and had the panels on his home approved by them. I looked into this. It was a new construction, whereas this is an original home. Something to consider. And yeah, so any questions, let me know.
Do we know if this company has installed any in the Holland area, or?
I am unaware
would sure be nice to go look at
Go
one.
look at them.
Yeah.
I don't know of any at this time.
And then an obvious question, do we have a sense of their height off of the roof? Is there a bit of space between the roof and the panels, and then?
So I do not know how high they will be off the roof. Like you said, they'll have to be mounted up. And again, the way he's described it is they won't be directly on the roof, but slightly raised above. That's
Mhm.
part of the damage. So I don't know how high they will be. I've looked up pictures that aren't renderings of the panels, and they seem they're like solid black and very
Mhm.
like reflective, which makes sense.
Mhm.
They don't seem to be, here's the picture,
Mhm.
as, I guess clunky as some solar panels I've seen, but also I personally have not seen these in person, and I don't know.
Question, not being a solar expert, is 10, do they need that many panels?
So that was another conversation. The homeowner was interested in doing 5 for cost purposes, and they told me that it was explained to them that the cost savings of having 10 solar panels instead of 5 solar panels was better in the long run versus trying to run the home on 5. So she opted to stick with the 10. I know that doesn't really help us from the design perspective, but that was a conversation.
If you go back to the original picture of the drawing of them on the roof, it covers almost the entire side of the house.
It does,
It
definitely.
definitely would be a visible piece.
Extremely.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at this entire
That entire
plane.
panel.
Do we sense that the panels, the surface of the panels would be the same plane as the roof?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I've seen them where the roof is like so, and then they are tipped up to be more
No, these will be.
45 degrees or something, okay. Yeah.
Is this the first application for this type of application to a home we've had solar panels in the historic district?
Do you all remember?
In-
It's-
in
I
our
haven't
time,
seen one-
yes.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
I
so,
haven't seen
Jay.
one in the recent,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, does the planning commission ever get involved in these kinds of decisions about whether or not that's applicable?
Not really, Jay. I mean, we haven't to date, so.
Well, the rub, I guess, is this is a behavior, I think, or something that we've been trying to encourage people to get to do with our community energy plan. So this may be the first time that this comes, but I have a feeling it won't be the last.
I agree. I think it'll be more common, and it was included in the design guidelines that we've been drafting and working on solar panels. I'm very grateful that those were included now that we've had an application come across. And, you know, those stress the visibility of them along with the damage to structure. And that's something that this one, again, it was really brought to my attention was the visibility aspect. But of course, there are also solar panels and
That said, the house does face south, so it makes sense that if this house is going to have solar panels, we're going to see them more than the house across the street, perhaps.
But these
And-
panels are on the eastern
That-
surface,
Right.
right? They're not on a south-facing roof.
No, right.
So they could, I mean, there's equivalent roofs on the.
It could,
on the
right,
side.
it could be the same thing, exactly. But if she happened to live on the south side, she might have had a south-facing roof that she'd want to use. If our concern is is it too visible? And I guess I'd want to argue that all of these houses have electrical masts on them, which we accept because all of us want to have electricity. And most houses now have a vent that comes out to vent their furnace and possibly water heaters. So I don't, it may be the first solar panel, but it's not the first thing that proves these are modern houses. And I don't think that's actually the problem for us. We know that they're houses we want people to live in.
Right.
At some point, we accepted a air conditioning condenser unit that usually you don't see. It's not right out front, but it's there, and we know it's there. Your eye doesn't say, "Oh my gosh, that's an awful thing to have about your house." So I don't know.
Yeah, obviously these are something that's not historic. It's a new technology, and the question is if it kind of detracts or takes away from the characteristics and the features of the home. If it draws away from that too much, I would think. And that's the question of the visibility. You know, is it overly visible that it kind of ruins the effect of the historic integrity of the house? Or is it, you know, an add-on on the side that you are aware of, but doesn't necessarily take away from the historicness of the house?
Anna, is there any guidance from the State Historic Preservation Office? This can't be the first time a historic home in all the historic districts in Michigan have had a conversation about solar panels on historic homes.
Yeah, so I, at this time, haven't seen anything directly from SHPO about it. I have looked at what some of the surrounding districts have done, again, with Grand Rapids. It's definitely something I can look into, though. There's other, you know, websites and things that have something to say about solar panels in historic districts, but nothing from the state itself that I know of at this time.
I really have no issue whatsoever with these panels, appearance-wise, with their placement. I kind of agree with what you said, John. I don't think the third grade class on the historical field trip will be confused and think that this is historic. They'll know the difference, and that's just the reality of being in a historic district. If the homeowner is still thinking about this, I would question the efficiency of these panels based on their placement facing east. That's not the optimal angle for these to be facing. So they're going to really be at a disadvantage from a performance standpoint right off the bat. They're never going to perform to the specs, not even close. They're only going to be really performing in certain times of year and certain times of the day. But that's kind of neither here nor there. It's just a piece of advice. I would probably relook at that. But
Though I don't think the house has any surfaces that I can see that would be better.
no, but it just means
Do you think that's why she needs 10 and not 5? Or,
I don't think it'll matter.
okay.
It's only a few hours of the day that they'll be useful.
Sometimes the house next door will actually cast a shadow in the winter, especially.
Uh-huh.
There's trees immediately to the south. It's just not an ideal solar situation. I've gotten quotes from this solar company before, and they tell me to put it at a 30-degree angle facing south. So I wonder how effective this particular installation would be, but that's her choice, and visually I don't really have an issue with it.
I did find an installation manual for sill fab, and it does suggest that there should be at least 3 to 4, at least 4 inches, 3 and 15/16 inches between the roof and the back side of the panel. So, and the panel itself is only a little over an inch. So they are going to be
Call it
pretty.
5, yeah.
Right. So if one thing that we want to suggest is just if we want to adhere to that minimum and just suggest that they, you know, put that stipulation in there that they are as close to the roof as possible and fit in with the roof slope. I
On
think
the
that
same plane as the roof. Yeah.
Right, that might be an appropriate condition to request, since that isn't specifically called out, but it is something that, you know, we have verified.
Anna, do you feel like the homeowner is already aware that this angle isn't, or this east-facing slope isn't ideal, and I mean, it's been discussed? We're
I
not.
don't know if that necessarily has been discussed. The amount of panels and what is necessary
Okay.
to run the home on solar energy has been a discussion. But I'm not sure of any other conversations that she's had with the supplier based on that.
I think just personally, from a design standpoint, I don't mind seeing the panels go the whole distance rather than having a small group in the middle or something like that, or
Mhm.
smaller, I don't know. It seems like then you get a more linear effect, which is the way the roof is. But
Well, I feel the same way as several of you have already stated. I don't think it's, I don't find it jarring when I picture the other, although it would be 5 inches higher, but the house sits on a little bit of a hill there, so you're not really seeing as much roof as you might in a flatter location. By hill, I mean it's 2 or 3 feet higher than some of its neighbors. It's not very. Is there a motion to approve or deny the application?
I'll move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and per testimony for the installation of solar panels at 203 West 10th Street based on the local guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standards number 10. New additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. I'll stipulate in my motion that they should achieve the minimum spacing off of the roof plane, and they should match the roof angle.
I'll second.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion is carried. Third item is a certificate of appropriateness application for 155 West 13th Street. Front steps replacement, and it is a retroactive request.
Yes, so Mr. Campice could also not be here tonight. He has requested that we table his application unless you were to just want to approve it, though I believe we should maybe have some discussion about it. So these are front steps that were replaced without approval from both the building department and from us at the Historic District Commission. I'm gonna scroll down here. So the steps originally looked like this. Oh, it's a little bit warped there. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think these were HDC approved to begin with. And the documentation photos we have from the district, there was actually an accessible ramp to get into the home. So just something to keep in mind. They now currently look like this. To the best of my knowledge, he used both 2x4 lumber and then a composite decking, perhaps Trex or something very similar to do the steps. The railings as well, I believe that this is a metal sort of spindle happening in the center there. And then there are wooden railings. This is not entirely finished. He stopped work and is sort of waiting for further guidance. So that's where the steps are at right now. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions or things they'd like to talk about right now. But again, the applicant is planning to attend in February if we want to table. This was the original wood. It is. They sent some pictures of.
We'll reuse that, come on. One question I had is, I don't know what the situation is when we're replacing something that was already sort of non-conforming and not, you know, I mean, if a homeowner came and said, the existing, you know, the one that you showed in the one picture, this is falling apart, can I just remake the exact same thing? You know, are we in that sort of like for like replacement? Or, I mean, for me, it would be a chance to, you know, raise the bar a little bit and say, you know, can we do something a little better than that? I don't know, I don't know what the guidelines are as far as, you know, when somebody is replacing something that's already not a good, you know, like something that looks like a deck railing, you know, on their porch. I know we went by that with the homeowner on, was it 9th Street that, you know, we worked quite a bit with trying to soften that look, but anyway, I'd be curious where we stand in saying what you had wasn't good and you can't replace it with the thing that, even if they said, I want to do it just like that one, could we say, no, you need to do better than that one?
Okay. And a related question.
Yeah.
I hear us often using the term like for like, as if that solves everything. And does anybody know where we got that? Does it have to do with, okay, somebody put vinyl siding on and we'll protect their rights to have vinyl siding in the future? And is it a real thing? I hear us say it all the time.
I think it's a real thing in
Okay.
preservation broadly,
Okay.
but I think it's usually used in the context of, oh, you have cedar siding, and rather than burden you with coming through this process to replace your cedar siding with new cedar siding, you can do like for like. But a lot of times it gets used for, oh, you have this detail from 1985 and it's, you know, aluminum siding, and now you get permission to do something that we would rather see you raise the bar on. So I don't think where it's come from. I think it's widely used.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Nick, that,
But,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
but it doesn't apply to every element we might see. Is that where we're going with it?
No, I think it does apply like to vinyl. Like if you want to replace vinyl with vinyl, I think you're entitled to do that.
Okay.
Our preference would be that you don't,
Certainly.
but a lot of times in situations like this, there's other code things that would prevent like for like.
Yes.
Because of code compliance, and then you're doing a new thing, and then that project should be flagged to come here.
That makes sense. To my eye, those look way too steep to even meet.
Well, but the
shallow.
picture is stretched out.
Is it?
They did
Yeah.
add a 5th step in the reconstruction. So the new steps are not as steep as the originals. The originals were not quite as steep as the photo also led them to be.
Right, but, and they also look shallow front to back.
Yes, so I currently have a request in with some folks in code and building to take a closer look at these, because again, I didn't want to bring them to you, have you all approve them, just to find out that there are some major code issues. So right now, I don't have a solid answer on what exactly needs to be replaced. I've been told it looks like it might need a landing, it probably needs a different handrail, the step sizing as we've noticed, but I can't say anything for sure on that at this moment.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to table it until we have the answers to those questions too, because that could factor in
Yeah.
if he needs to completely rebuild it anyways because it's not at all conforming to building code. That could change the story a little bit, I think. So.
As I look at that, I don't know if he took the old ones off and started from scratch. I'm not too sure what appropriate looks like there. From an architectural standpoint, you know, a rough drawing or something, I mean, what is appropriate? Is that close?
Well, if you look at these, the porch railing on the previous house, I feel like you get a little better, the one that we were looking at about the solar panels.
Okay.
If you just look at that porch railing, that might be, it was, I think, in the non-winter picture. Wow, a lot of pictures. Yeah, I mean, that looks more, to me, like the kind of railing that would be appropriate to the house.
And again, we may be talking more about a code question, but it seems like even in this, now she's got a driveway right there, so there's not many choices, but if I get to the top step and I want to open that, if it's a screen door, am I not going to have to step back down for the screen door to swing? And as I think somebody started to say, there ought to be a landing on our subject house, if it's possible. I'm wandering into a code questions, but
Yeah.
Right, I think that's something he would have normally had to get a building permit for anyways.
Yep.
So I think it needs to go through that channel of he's applying for a building permit to do these stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes to us as part of that process rather than, because what he has there now is not code compliant. He's got to work through that process too. So I think we can circle back to February and hopefully by then
Yeah. No, I'll work on it some more. And
he'll have kind of started that process.
you're moving to table it then, Justin?
Yeah, I'll move to table this item for the certificate of appropriateness at 155 West 13th Street until February.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Item D is a certificate of appropriateness application for 253 West 10th Street for a dormer addition. You want to give us a little background, Anna? Or?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So this is for a dormer addition on the rear of the building. I just want to clarify two things that I got wrong on the staff report. It's going to be a gabled roof, not a shed dormer, or gabled dormer, excuse me. And it's on the north side of the property, not the east. So I have drawings that were shared with me today, so thank you for those.
Oh, okay.
And let's find, we can look through all of them, but I just want to show this one here. So that's the proposed dormer there on the back.
Yeah, I can provide
Yeah, if you'd like to add
little more
anything,
flavor.
or-
So we recently purchased this home at 253. Currently live at 196 West 10th, so definitely had interest in staying in the area. And it's a great old house. It's about 100 years old. It's a craftsman with a lot of the original details inside of the house. Just a fabulous old house with lots of potential for improvements. It's fallen into a bit of disrepair over the last few years, but one downside of the house is the location of the only bathroom in the house. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath, and the only full bathroom in the house is located right smack in the middle of the kitchen and dining area. Which, yeah, there's a picture of it here. So the dining area is to the left, there's the bathroom door, and then on the next one, the kitchen is to the right, there's the bathroom door. So obviously not ideal per today's standards, and probably not good for health and safety reasons either in today's.
But way better than going
COVID.
outside. So
Yeah.
think of what an
Good
improvement it
point.
was at the
Yeah.
time.
Fair point, yeah. But we would like to relocate that bathroom elsewhere in the house, and given that it's a small footprint and it's just the 3 bedrooms, would rather not sacrifice a bedroom. So there is a large attic space unused on the north side of the house. And with the addition of the dormer, we could take advantage of that attic space and move that bathroom upstairs, and also enlarge and make the kitchen a lot more pleasant as well. And there's a marginal view off of the back side of the house, to be fair, so it'd be nice to have a window that looks over, you get a bit of a water view off that back side. So So I guess the hope for today is if we can, I guess, reach a consensus on the style or the scale of the dormer, then I can come back with window specs. She just got the drawings today, so it was rather, we had to pull it together at the last minute. But as far as exterior materials, we would do cedar shake siding, which is identical to the dormer on the front of the house. And fascia and soffit would be painted wood, similar to the front of the house. And then the window would, match the 4/1 style in the rest of the house as well.
Can you scroll down, Anna, to the drawings?
Yes. Would you like me to click through all of them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Like that. East elevation, west elevation. This is the first floor?
Yeah, that's the first floor with the bathroom in the corner there, yeah.
Hmm.
And then it's got just a teeny little galley kitchen, the way it's set up today, which, has sufficed for 100 years, I guess, but. And then there's the removal of the bathroom, so it opens up the kitchen significantly and allows for an island and just a lot bigger kitchen footprint.
Can you keep going to the elevations?
Yeah, so that is a non-conforming, I'm sure, skylight just to the left of the dormer.
So it would appear to me that this dormer is going to be a mirror image to the one off the front, as you had said, so it's going to be balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like it might be slightly to the left of center, but, visually, essentially the same as the one that's on the front. Yeah, and we talked about like doing a different style, like a shed style, but this one just seems to fit better with, the facade of the house.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Is it a bit taller, or is that, when we were looking at one of the side elevations, I thought?
Yeah, the peak
Is
would
that-
be, the peak matches the peak of the main structure.
Or almost met?
Yeah.
Am I taking it too literally? It looks like it's a tiny bit lower than the actual ridge, the east-west ridge, but a good, say, foot higher than your other dormer.
Mm-hmm.
And that dormer wouldn't be tall enough? If that dormer were on the the correct side, would it not be?
I don't think it would allow enough headroom, like if we
Okay.
go to there's a second floor layout. There was a pre-existing door that actually led to, here we are. So kind of in the center, in the center of that back section, there was a door that was there before that led to like a small framed-in closet. And that closet was removed, and so now you have this big empty space, but that door is where it's at, and I'd rather not relocate that door because of, its original trim and plaster. So I think in order to have the door in that location and with the, the peak being at an angle, it would need to be a bit higher than the one that's on the front.
It seems like the roof pitch of the new proposed dormer is steeper than the other roof pitches.
Doesn't. Yeah, I don't know why it would need to be. I can definitely work with Taryn.
Maybe it's just the line drawing, maybe it's just the pictures, but it might be nice to match those roof pitches just to keep to that craftsman character.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if it isn't, I would ask why it couldn't be. Yeah.
And Nick, are you saying that its angle should match the one just below it, or should match the one in front of the house?
I was kind of thinking maybe it would match the one on the front dormer, but now that I'm looking at the line drawing, it looks like the drawing has it matched up with this other little gable that's on the back of the house. And I don't know if there's some optical illusions happening, but maybe they match, maybe they don't, but
Okay.
And would this match be more important than the matching the front? Or
don't know, but I would
Okay.
probably match that front dormer.
Okay.
You would, okay.
So if we proceed, we'd like to make that at least a suggestion. I mean,
Okay.
we're also here to help,
Yeah,
not
I
just to
don't-
say yes or no, but.
Yeah, you know, definitely, I'm looking for input, for sure.
Great.
There's no reason that I would be aware of that we couldn't,
Great.
I mean, it would be a slight shift, so I don't think it would impact anything within the bathroom footprint. Now, if you said you wanted it lowered, then that might be a different story, but if you're okay with the height,
Well, it may lower itself by having a shallower pitch,
yeah, that's true. If they
but
keep
by a little
this-
bit. But I don't
Oh.
think
Yeah.
I don't think there's a big concern. At least I don't have a big concern about the not matching thing, because you know that's not how we're gonna see the house.
Right.
Nobody will see it that way.
Yeah, this is a theoretical view.
Right. I mean, maybe the neighbor will see it that way when they look out their bathroom window. But even if they don't match, so what? I mean, there's a front and a back, and they don't match.
Mhm.
Yeah, to me, having it match the one in the back is visually pleasing, you know, that there's repetition there, but I could see the argument for having it match the one in the front because it's repeating the one in the front, so.
Well, it's your house, and if you've got both roof pitches present, you can certainly claim to us that you're trying to match one or the other, and we would probably think that that's pretty wise. But I'm wondering if they don't actually match.
Okay, I'll
I'm
just
looking
make
at the
sure that it,
pictures, and I think that back gable is actually lower slung than the line drawing.
okay,
And that could just be that, you know, we see things differently in 3D or whatever. But
Mhm.
it'd be great if you could pick up that Craftsman DNA and get that to match one or the other, or maybe both.
okay, all right, I can definitely do that, yep. Mhm.
And did one of those have a shed dormer kind of sketched in, just in
It was a
magic
very
marker?
crude, it was a very crude
Yeah, that's okay.
placeholder
No,
sketch.
I see. Well,
But-
that's enough, though, to tell us both, to tell us and you that you probably don't want that.
Right,
Right?
yep, that
That's
did not work out, yeah.
Very
That was-
valuable
that
to
was
do
early.
that.
Yeah, the garage,
Great.
the garage actually has the one with the other angle where you have the gable and then a shed, is that? no?
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Or no, yeah,
Well-
I can't remember the name of it, but there's actually yet another gable style on the garage, but it just seems like that, repeating that gable from the back
Mhm.
feels right.
It's a really interesting little back of a house. I like that little gable that juts out a little bit further down.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty cool. It makes that little landing covered for the door. It's really charming.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a neat house.
That's probably not something there's any access to, the little gable above the back window?
I mean,
Uh,
it's unfinished attic, so you
Right.
can definitely see
Oh,
it,
okay.
but the plan would not have access there because it's just not usable.
Sure.
I suppose you could just have like a access hole or something, but, yeah.
So then the question of Rafter Tails comes up, which is, would you include them or would you keep them? Would you not include them?
I would repeat whatever is done in front.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you would
so
have
if they're-
Rafter Tails
Yeah,
on
so
the
if
dormer.
they're-
And you'd repeat the trim in the freeze board area. Looks like there's a very small little freeze board that's included in these gables, but not in the line drawing at the moment.
Yeah, I would make it match what was there in the other, what's there in the other.
Okay, so to be clear, we don't have rafter tails on the front dormer, right? That's what you're saying, Nick?
I think they're exposed from the bottom, but they might have a fascia on their sides that
Okay.
prevent you from seeing them from the side. I'm
I
not
see.
sure, but
Okay.
you can see them
Oh,
in.
here.
Because there is a fascia even on the front, it just doesn't
Yeah,
go all the
right
way
there.
down.
I think they're in the shadows.
Yeah, you-
Where the flag.
They're peeking out just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's beadboard in that soffit, so I would repeat the beadboard in the underside.
Well,
Seems like a pretty good plan to me.
Is there a motion to approve the certificate?
Can I just ask,
Please.
things like the windows, you said you were gonna do the, was it 5/1
4
or
over 1s.
4/1?
Yeah.
Do we need to see spec sheets on the windows, or do we approve it with, maybe staff approval for the actual windows?
Yeah, because I do have to source the windows, so.
I was gonna suggest a condition on the approval that
Mm.
the windows are brought in a separate meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what we were.
You aren't at a point where a separate meeting would throw you off for your schedule or anything for the windows, or are you?
Not for the windows, I'd like to get,
Certainly.
started on it.
Okay.
So if we're like good with the dormer addition itself and the windows are just sort of,
Come back with the windows.
come
and-
back with
And
the
we
windows.
understand that they'll be 4/1 or something that,
yeah.
okay, great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good point, Mark, thank you.
Well, I move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and per testimony for the addition of a dormer at 253 West 10th Street, based on Secretary of the Interior Standards number 10. New additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. And with the stipulation that the final window choices be reviewed at the subsequent meeting.
It's been moved, is there support?
I'll support it.
Moved and supported, any other comments? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thanks for all you're doing over there. It's really going to be great. That completes our 4 items, I believe.
Yes,
And we can, there are no administrative approvals? How is that possible?
none this month.
Holidays, I guess, huh?
Quite a few COAs still though.
Uh-huh, sure. Well, filled out and, okay,
Yeah.
for next month. Okay. We are at City Greenhouses with Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, so we have Andy Kenyon with us tonight, who's going to tell us a little bit about how the greenhouse project is going forward and
Perfect. Hi, Bud.
updates from
I mean,
the
Andy, I'm sorry.
Nice. I like it. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks
Hi,
for having
Andy.
me tonight. I'm just gonna, I know most of you are very aware of kind of where we've been with the greenhouse over the past few years, but I thought I might start with just a little bit of our recent history with what we've done and where we're kind of at. So about 5 years ago, we really got this process going. 2017, we engaged with a group that helped us kind of determine what we might do with the old greenhouse on State Street and 21st Street. I've kind of delineated in my head, and Jay knows this too, but we've talked about the grow house, our new greenhouse, and the old greenhouse. And so we don't have to say old and new, it's grow house and greenhouse. So we met about what we do with the greenhouse at State Street, kind of the process, what the building means. It's got a historic designation. What we do when we build our new grow house, which we did 2 years ago. We engaged in the past with Evergreen Commons along the way on kind of what they might want to do with that process or what that building. That has kind of lived its course, and we've started to move forward with a plan that we'd like to see. So we started in 2017 and kind of got an estimate on to kind of what it might cost to move part or all of the greenhouse to an alternate location within the city. Just kind of getting our heads around what that price tag might be. And back then it was $500,000 to $700,000 to take it down piece by piece and rebuild it somewhere else. Since 2017, we in 2019, a couple years later, we started to have kind of greenhouse meetings with staff. We may have started the process, I believe, with your Historic District Commission then, as to what do we do with that? How do we move forward from that space? How that looks for delisting, for whatever that meant at the time. So we started that, and we started to build our new greenhouse, our new grow house, and that got completed at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Fast forward just a little bit, February 2020, we had a 2-day charrette, which some of you had attended, and we engaged the community, and Phil Meyer helped facilitate that, as well as staff. And we started to figure out kind of where it might be appropriate to move the greenhouse should we decide we wanted to do that. And we looked at a bunch of different locations, Window on the waterfront, over by Holland Park, Centennial Park, and we kept coming back to Centennial Park and back to Centennial Park and back to Centennial Park. And as staff, I'm the only one here tonight, but my other staff that were part of that process kept coming back to Centennial Park too, and kind of thinking about where that might be appropriate to have in the park, and why we would have it there. And as you know, there's historic ties to Centennial Park from the old greenhouse. It was originally built to support the flowers that were in the park and had been expanded upon multiple times in the early 1900s to accommodate what we currently have now. So that process happened, met again with Historic District Commissioners that were part of that process, and decided that we kind of needed to determine what we wanted to do in Centennial Park. And so we master planned Centennial Park last year. So we engaged with MKSK, a firm out of Columbus, Ohio, basically completely virtual, which was completely weird, but it worked really well, and it was very efficient. But we looked at the park. We had multiple community meetings looking at the park as a whole to determine what we need to do in the park in the future to maintain its Victorian and historic significance there. And then also whether or not the moving of part of the greenhouse or all of the greenhouse would be a good spot to put that in the park. And the group ended up deciding that it would be an appropriate place to move it if we would want. They weren't advocating one way or the other, but we got them to let us know that it would be a good fit if we chose to put it there. So I met with Anna and Mark, I don't know, a few months ago to kind of get this ball rolling again. As you know, the greenhouse isn't getting any younger, and we don't use it anymore from a staff perspective. It's a shell now. We do keep the heat on to keep the ice and the snow off of it, but we don't operate any kind of programming in there at all. We don't grow plants in there anymore. All of it is out of our new grow house, which is on the 24th Street Park and Recreation Campus. So it doesn't serve a purpose for us now, so we're kind of looking to determine what to do with it and how to do it, and so this kind of started this ball rolling again, like I said. So we're hoping to come back in a month or so to come back with more of a kind of a plan of what we'd like to do, and determine what part of it we would like to have in Centennial Park, what the programming would be in Centennial Park, and so forth. But I wanted to come today and encouraged by Anna to come and meet with you and answer any questions, or kind of figure out where you would like us to go to get this to the next step. So that's kind of it. That's a lot. But yeah, so I don't know what. Did that sound good, Anna?
Yeah, so just as, I guess, a review, a reminder for what the Historic District Commission's role is in this, because the greenhouse has that historic landmark designation, and because potentially Centennial Park would be involved, which is also a locally designated historic district, the HDC would need to basically go through a COA process in order to allow the greenhouse, if it's to be moved, to be moved. This would probably happen in several parts. We've talked about, I think what you're referring to, this concept plan, for first sort of making sure the Historic District Commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission are all on board with the same vision moving forward. And then from there, looking at the individual pieces of taking it down, putting it back up, what that will look like. We talked about needing to potentially infill different areas of how they're all connected. So that would be coming further down the line. But again, it is a lot of information up front, so
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're all clear kind of on what your role will be in this. Hopefully, that didn't make it more confusing.
Yeah. It's been a really long process to get to where it is today.
Sure. Jay?
Couple questions, Andy.
Yep.
Do I remember that there once, at one point, back in the maybe 60s, there was a bit of a greenhouse in Centennial Park? Or am I not?
I don't know that. I have not seen that.
Because all those beautiful kind of big ferns and things that clearly don't
Tropical.
survive winter, we would take those and put those in the greenhouse over on 21st Street.
Correct, yeah, we would move them back and forth. We did that all the way up until probably 2010, 2009.
Okay.
We had some pretty heavy straight line winds that summer, and it took out all the plants, and it was a good time to stop doing that.
Oh.
That was the decision, so.
So you mentioned programming.
Yep.
Do you envision that being a bit of a greenhouse to support some of the activities in Centennial Park with the vegetation and the flowers and
Yeah,
the
so-
trees? Or do you is there a programming that's something quite a bit different than that?
So we don't think, in talking to the MKSK, the consultant, we don't think that we would want to have it function as a greenhouse anymore, more of a shell of what it was or what it is. We foresee having events in the space, maybe having Sunday afternoon tea, or maybe a wedding reception, or people just love to take their photographs in that current location, and we could see that becoming a photo op in that park, while also giving a nod to its historical significance to the park. We've tossed around different ideas of having it have glass or not have glass. That's been a talk, so it's become a skeleton and not have glass, because when we make it into a public space, which now it has functioned as a private space where it's operational, but if you make it a public space, there's a whole lot more that goes into it in terms of having tempered glass and all sorts of different things on it that might change the look of it or the feel of it. So one of the thoughts was to not have glass on it. We just have the shell of it, on a concrete pad or some kind of pad. We've talked about snow melting it, so it can be, you can walk up to it in the wintertime. We've a bunch of different ideas.
So you've really been thinking creatively here.
Yeah, well, we've had a long time to do that. So,
And in the advice of that report, that that Centennial Park report had some really cool
Yeah.
long-term, both revitalization and new fountains, and it has some
Yeah.
really cool things.
yep, it
So-
does, and we're excited about that. That was a suggestion from this group, actually, that said we should probably look at determining what we do with the park in the future and master plan it, so that's what came out of it. So that was awesome to have it done. So,
And is it, the thought this far is kind of the main piece is what we're talking about, or is there still play that this could be the whole piece of that existing, there's like three wings of that thing?
there are. So I think at the end of the day, I think what we were talking about is a 27 by 27 square foot, or 27 by 27 footprint of the tropical part of the house, which
Right.
is along Central Avenue. We've talked about a bunch of different pieces of that. Do we keep that whole chunk? Do we just have it that middle piece? And where we're talking about putting it would be at the southeast end, and there's a big kind of completely east of the Oz book across closer to Central.
Yeah.
So that footprint or green space isn't really large, but it's big enough to support part of that. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now.
Is it fair to call that the middle of the east part?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically the tall part is what it amounts to.
Sure.
Yeah, the tallest piece. It doesn't necessarily have the biggest historical significance, but it probably architecturally, I would say, to me at least, it has the most significance. You could argue with me on that, but I think
Yeah, I
visually,
see
that's
it.
what I see as being the,
Okay, that's a good picture right
yeah,
there.
right there.
So,
Like the right and the left side of the doorway.
uh-huh.
And like Anna mentioned, there'd probably be at some point some kind of infill need to, if we did that, to add pieces of structural steel to the ends of it, to the north and south ends of that, to make it work.
I'm probably not the only former 10-year-old boy that imagines climbing it if you don't have glass in it.
Yeah, I guess that would be something to think about, and to look at. Maybe it would be just uprights and not have a lot of cross members. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, though. That's a good point.
I'm
Maybe
not
it would have
trying to cause trouble.
No, it may have a knee wall. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what would be appropriate. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Anna.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Good. Well, for more than one reason, I'm sorry that chairperson Kim Ike isn't here, because I know she has strong feelings about it, and
Yeah.
I know she was part of the charrette and
Yep.
is our leader, especially on this item. So, there's no action tonight for.
No, it was, yeah.
Very good. Well, Andy, thank you very much. Appreciate your bringing us this and keeping us. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What is your work plan for between now and the next time we talk?
So what we'd like to do is kind of put pen to paper a little bit and and put together a possible spot for it to land in the park. The consultant was a little bit vague on where to put it, and it didn't really give us complete direction, so we took the liberty of deciding it for ourselves where it might be good. They picked kind of that southeasterly side, but didn't have a really good spot. So we'd like to put a drawing together that shows that 27 by 27 piece of the building in the park to scale so that you could see it, and maybe if we're good enough, we get some 3D rendering of what that would look like all the way around it. And then really dial in and put it a little bit more clear as to what we would do with it. I think the programming piece of it is obviously important. I threw out some ideas there, and I think that's probably the line that we'll go, but we'd like to come back and have that be able to be visually seen by your group. If that's good. If there's something else that you'd like between then and now, I'd be more than happy to do that too.
I'm kind of curious, Andy, about the cost placeholder that you had on this in 2017.
Yeah.
You're looking at 500 to 700,000. Have you any idea how far that's gone up in the last 4-ish years?
No, we don't, and that was to move the entire structure, so
Okay.
that was the entirety of it. We have put about I think, and I'm gonna probably get this number wrong, but we have $500,000-ish in the Municipal Capital Improvement Fund in a couple of years to do something with
Okay.
this. We'd have to dial that in, because we'd have to get it, a lot of work would have to go into making it work. Especially if we talk snow melt and bringing in different pieces of sidewalk, just the infrastructure that we would need to have the house be set would have to happen too. So we'd have to revisit that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Andy?
Good job. Keep it up.
Yes,
Make it
good
happen.
job. Thank you.
Make us proud.
We're trying really hard.
And you do.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Very
it.
good. Thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
Anna, do you have thoughts on the 2022 meeting schedule?
Yeah,
or
I just wanted to share it with everyone. It wasn't entirely clear to me how this has been handled in past years. To my understanding, it doesn't need to be voted on, but I did want to make it aware it has been posted. In the past, I know there's been some maybe conflicting dates. For example, April 5 technically is on the area's spring break, so that might be a date we want to reconsider. July 5 is also very close to a holiday. I'm fine with waiting until we get closer to the dates, but I wanted to just share that the schedule is out and posted. We'll likely be in the council chambers for the next month, and maybe the month after that. The renovations on the 3rd floor should be wrapping up in a month or so. And then we can go back to the training room. So, any questions about the schedule?
Any concerns from commissioners? Okay.
Okay. So then the other item I wanted to bring, again, just to your attention, was I have received the Certified Local Government, or CLG, annual report to fill out for 2021. This is something that we complete every year and return back to SHPO. So I wanted to share it with all of you. I might be reaching out, most likely in the next month or so, with some questions. I'm interested in knowing if any of you have attended any webinars before I started, or conferences, things like that, mostly filling in any blanks from before June or after June. Back when I started, so that I can sort of report to SHPO the whole picture of what we've been up to. With this report, I'm glad I took a note on this. You'll notice right here it asks if we've adopted any guidelines. We haven't formally adopted any yet, but you'll notice the guidelines must be approved by SHPO. This was something I was unaware of. I've since talked with our representative, Alan Higgins, who's been very helpful. And yes, once we complete our new guidelines, they have to be sent to SHPO to review, send comments on, send them back to us. So this is another step in the process. I think the best way to handle this would be to go forward just like we were going to, review them, get them in our sort of final state before sending them to SHPO. It sounds like it's not a very intense process. He said it usually takes 30 days or less. They just sort of look at them, make sure there's nothing very concerning, and then send them back. But I wanted to share all of that with all of you because it was a little bit of a surprise for me to see that on there. So again, that's not an issue with this report because we haven't completed the guidelines yet, but for next year. So, and that kind of leads into my next point, unless there are any questions about the annual report, which was at the last meeting, we talked about holding a special meeting to review the locally designated design guidelines and to also sort of revisit the National Register guidelines / recommendations for the districts. I wasn't sure if this, again, was something we wanted to set now. I know Kim's not here, Kim Ike, excuse me, but again, I have an updated version with photographs. We've added more garage door images. That was also something discussed last time. And I'd really love to see them out in the public sphere by spring, when a lot of folks will be looking to send more COAs our way.
Tangentially related to that, I sent to a couple of you comments that a realtor had made on a house in the historic district. And the realtor, as realtors will do, had lots and lots of terrific adjectives all the way down through the description. And when they got to the very end, they said, houses in the historic district, check with City Hall for restrictions, I think. Do you recall, Mark? I think. Very kind of a blunt. Yeah. And I thought, and I did send that realtor a message to say we have some good information about the protections that are afforded to houses that are in the historic district. And I mean more by that than simply spinning the language. I think we do provide some protections, and a person buying a house in the historic district deserves to know that and probably wants to know that. I wish there was a way I could say and of course, listings don't last very long right now. So by the time that realtor read what I said, it was probably an offer on that house. But does anyone have a sense of how we might put together? I've been saying a packet of information, but I know we have that study that describes how the value of having a house in the district instead of just outside of the district.
Yeah. So I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I've been sort of sketching like maybe just a pamphlet or something just to get it started, because we have so much information. Just to sort of get people to ask more questions. I've also been contacted more and more often, saying, "Oh, I'm interested in this house. It's in the historic district. Can you tell me about that?" So for just as many people who are asking, I'm sure there's 10 times as many people who aren't. And that was even part of the problem with the steps that got replaced earlier. He was not aware, he was a recent homeowner in the district, of all of the different opportunities, protections, and just things that go into being a part of the historic district. So I think creating a packet is a good like goal once we get these
Okay,
guidelines
sure.
out. Yeah, and then if in the meantime there's something, because the market is moving so quickly, that we can get out there. So that's something that I personally have been thinking of, like something,
Great.
trying to start new things, and I'm not sure, you know, from the city side, like what we can pass out, what permissions we need, what we need to do from that side, and then also from all of you having that input. But I know it's something we want to do, and I think it's something that's also very needed.
I think I said to this group before, I was approached by a Realtor who said that she was willing to take a packet to any new listing, and again, it would have to be the same day. At this point, I mean, it would really be kind of onerous to watch Realtor.com or something and say, okay, here's a new listing, I better get that package out to the Realtor. And I don't know that we want a system where we've chosen a Realtor that hands it out. That's not our goal, I don't think. But we do have more than one Realtor who lives in the district and who might be willing to help with that. So, again, I just saw it as such a negative comment, and it seems to just set us up for conflict and strife. And
Yeah.
yet here we are with some genuine experts on design that are willing to offer their services, at least momentarily. And I think what we offer is better than just restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And the federal tax credits.
Yes.
Are people talking about that, taking advantage of it?
So the federal ones are for income producing properties only, so it doesn't apply to many of the folks within our districts. However, there will be a new state tax credit starting up within the next couple of months here that was approved in December of 2020. And they're just finishing up sort of the rulemaking phase of that, and that will be available to both income and non-income producing properties and individuals, so residential homes. This is something that not all of the guidelines and procedures have been shared broadly yet because they are still being drafted and written. But SHPO provides updates on it every so often, and it seems like February, March, hopefully we'll be getting more concrete information, and then that will be have its own separate application process that ties in to the federal tax credit, because you can receive both if you qualify for both, or has its kind of own pipeline. It's a first come, first served opportunity, when there will be a wait list, if I remember correctly. So I plan to put together more information about that once we have it. But thank you, Jay, for bringing it up.
No,
Because, yeah,
I
it's-
apologize for saying federal. I meant the state.
Oh, the state
tax
one,
credits,
yeah.
Because that's a big deal.
It is,
For
yes.
somebody who has a 10 or a 15 or a $20,000 bill, like a front porch that's caving in or something, and you gotta fix it, and you gotta do it a certain way, if it's 25%, that's 25% off the bill. And it's a big deal. That's something worth talking about in our benefits of the district.
Yes,
Agreed.
yes.
Yeah. And Anna, you sense that we'll know more in February or March, but they won't be immediately available at that point. There will still be a waiting period.
That's when, the last I attended like a online meeting about it in October, and they were saying February or March for potentially the start of the program. It went through its final round of comments and edits at the beginning of December. So I am hoping that applications will open then, but I haven't heard word. I was just on the website for it because I had a homeowner asking me about tax credits to share the information with them, and there's nothing more updated since August, when the last round of stuff was shared. But yeah, I can send the information I do have out to all of you if you're interested.
I think it'd just be great if by the time that became available, we could make that as part of our packet, because that
think
is
so.
clearly a very positive effect coming about by being in the district.
Yes.
Although that's available to historic properties outside of districts as well, is that correct?
It's available to any property in a local district, eligible for the state or national register or on the state and national register. And then it's also available for any properties that meet those requirements in the state of Michigan.
So if the property is not in a local district, but it's eligible for state or federal
Yes.
register, it would be eligible for this tax credit.
It would be eligible for this, you just have to then prove that you meet those requirements, and I think it has a separate review process, yeah.
So there's still an advantage to being in the local district, it sounds like, although
seems like it.
it's not
Yeah.
an exclusive.
It's not exclusive.
It's
no,
not
okay.
exclusive, there's two separate pools of money for commercial and residential
Sure.
as well. So there's no competition between that, but as I said, it's a first come, first served basis, which they've emphasized that a lot of people are gonna be interested
Mhm.
in this.
Great. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to come before the commission, other than welcoming our new member?
Yeah.
We appreciate having you here, Kim.
Thank you.
Good. Is there a motion to adjourn? Or would you like to just spend the night?
I move to adjourn.
I'll support.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.